Koi. Welcome to Tuesday Tea Time with Chala. I am still continuing not having tea. I'm having, first time since my photo shoot, I think, another protein drink. The update on my diet, you guys, I mean, never mind marketing and sales, right? I mean, the update on my diet, I've started a reverse diet because I've been hearing about a way that you can eat more calories but still stay as fit as you want. And especially since I'm really active, I work out like 6 times a week, I lift as heavy as I can. So this new school of thought that I'm finding out about is called reverse dieting. My coach had first told me about it, but I just psychologically couldn't do it. And I'm having a really hard time now. So the whole idea is to find out what your rate of calories should be, but that you should burn according to your activity level, your height, your age, and all of that. And your sex, whether you're female or male. And then mine was like 1750 calories. And what I'd been doing for the last 4 years was anywhere between 1200 and 1400 calories. So I got my system used to over dieting because I got greedy with fat loss. So now the whole idea is to increase from 1400 by 100 every week slowly to, my 1750 and then maintain there at that level. But the problem is, I did it too fast and I've gained too much. I'm looking for, help around this if anybody knows anything about reverse dieting. So yeah, and it's taking time for my body to adjust, obviously, to the extra calories. So it's really gained a lot of weight in the last 2-3 weeks, and it's like nothing fits. I'm having psychological issues. So anyway, that's my fitness journey. So I just thought I'd continue the rest of the day with my protein hot chocolate. Okay, so what is new in the world of selling and marketing? Thanks for any of you, all of you, who joined us for last week's big masterclass. It was a great success. It was probably one of the best ones we've done. I got so excited about it. We're doing another one, but this time we're gonna stream it into a new Facebook group. And the new Facebook group, you're gonna be invited because you guys are part of my network. So you'll be invited. The new group is not so different from the old one. It's still called, this time instead of B2B CEO Society, which is what I'm doing this live presentation in, it's going to be called CEO Society. We're opening it up to a lot of people in Facebook that we weren't able to connect with before. We're inviting all of you guys, our old tried and true members who are members of the first group, into the second group. There is an application process similar to the one that you went through if you never did. And yeah, we're really excited. We're launching June 24th, another masterclass. So if you missed the last one, join us for this one. Again, it's gonna be on Zoom, but we're gonna be live streaming it into the Facebook group, the new Facebook group. There's lots and lots of exciting stuff coming down. So I wanted to let you know about that. I wanted to let you know about the new group. And I wanted to let you know that a lot of my team members, especially Marianne and Crystal, they're going to be reaching out to you and finding out where your business is at, what you're doing, how you've been since you last joined and talked to us. And we're going to try to serve you best with our content in the new masterclass. It was a fury of repositioning, pitches and company statements. And we didn't get to nearly half as many people as were on the call, but I hope that it served the people. I got some really great comments. People are still meeting with me for weeks on end. So it was great. It was a great launch. Let me take another sip. Now, having said that, one of the other things that I do for my existing clients is, of course, it's not just about the marketing. Marketing is everything that is until the question of how much is it? So that's the marketing part. So I'm not just a marketing strategist, but I also help them with what to say once they're in the sales meeting. So one of my clients crushed it 2 weeks ago or last week. And that's why this Tuesday Tea Time with Chala is called Winning Sales Presentation Secrets. they are being asked to quote for a $250,000 program, and at the end of their meeting, the decision maker said, all we need is a signature, basically. So I want to tell you how we created that presentation, and what are some of the things that I changed in their presentation, what are some of the things that we actually made sure that they had in their presentations, because as you know, for 18 years when I worked for Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Frito-Lay, I was like pitched to death. I saw so many sales presentations from some of the most creative minds in the world, because I also worked in the European, Asian regions. I've seen them all, vendors of every size, shape, kind, country of origin, industry, you name it. So I consider myself a guru on sales presentations. And obviously when we put everything that we knew, everything that I knew into this client's presentation, they hit it out of the ballpark. They were so thrilled. And they did a great job. So they did. I mean, sometimes when I tell clients what to do, they're too scared to do it, or they want to stick to the old way of doing it because there's this huge opportunity in front of them. But these guys, we've been working together for years, so they trust me. Yay. All right. So for those of you who trust me and who are still watching, let me take another sip. And you guys, you take a sip too. I hope you're watching this with tea. It's Tuesday tea time. Okay. Now I married some insights that I found from a report from HubSpot. HubSpot is a marketing, email marketing, content marketing company, and they come out with some amazing content, and most of the amazing content is insights based and research based. So I really love that. And by the way, I'm wearing shorts today because it's kind of like in Toronto, I think yesterday they said it went up to 31 degrees, which is unheard of. I've actually first time turned on the AC in the condo, and I'm always cold. I don't know what kind of menopause I'm having, but I am always cold. So anyway, so the first thing that I tell clients and anybody who's going to be doing any kind of presentation, but especially a sales presentation, is have self-amnesia. Stop talking about yourself. Forget about yourself. I don't care how many countries you're in. I don't care how many offices you have, how many employees you have. I don't care what your vision is, mission is. Oh my God, please make this presentation about me and start from the end in mind. Start with what you're trying to tell me. And so the number 2 point of how to have a winning sales presentation is to start talking about me, but not just me, but my biggest problem. So how do you figure out the biggest problem for the person that you're presenting to? Well, if you haven't had a previous conversation, which you should always do, but if you haven't done that, then you should be looking at their industry and looking at specifically what problems most competitors and the industry itself is facing. Now, there are some ways to figure out all of this, and I give all this information on my training, but you can look at actual data that exists on the internet about them. You can look at their annual reports. You can, if they're a product company, you can go and count the shelves for anywhere that they're being sold. You can talk to a few people who use them, but if it's a B2B like my clients, then if you haven't had any insights, information from them or confirmation, and if you can't have that with an insider that works on the inside or somebody from the industry that you can't talk to, then you're pretty much left on your own to guess. I hate to do that, and this is why all of my clients are specialized in an industry, because in that case, you've done so many presentations to that industry. You know that industry inside and out. In fact, that's how we pick the industry, is we do research and by talking to them about their pain. So, okay, fine. You don't know anything about the industry. You don't know anything about the company's pain. You can't find any information in the marketplace or on Google about what problems potentially they could have. Well, you're just gonna have to do your best and guess. And I hate doing marketing or anything on guessing. But here's the caveat. You have to tell them that what your guess is based on, or you have to reference the guess based on a similar industry you worked in, or a similar client that you worked in, or a conversation that you had. You have to source it, because in the past when I've had companies come and present to me when I was the client and the guess was off, it turned me off completely because they didn't back it up. They just pretended that that was true, that their guess was true. But what they were missing is that they didn't say that it was their guess. They didn't source it, and they didn't give the possibility of there being any room for error on their part. They just made the assumption, came barreling in, and thought that was our pain, and it was so off. And they built this huge whole presentation around this pain that didn't exist for us, where we had a bleeding sore of a costly problem that they never even uncovered or addressed. So their work went to the garbage, our time was spent and it went to the garbage. It was just, and they never got the job. And that was not the first time or the last time. That happened over and over and over again. So check in with them. Is this the right, are we in the right ballpark? We've made this assumption, or we're basing this based on X, Y, Z. Does this resound? So constantly check in on the pain while you're presenting. Number 3 is you have to address the elephant in the room. The number one reason why the person that you're presenting to may not buy is because of status quo. That is the biggest objection. That is going to be the biggest competitor for you, is not doing anything. Inertia is your biggest enemy. So you have to put that into the presentation. What is at risk, or at what is the consequence, and what will be the cost if nothing is done, or if why the current solutions are not working right now. And again, you could be insulting someone because pretty much they're the ones who hired the solution, or the solution could be internal. But what you need to do is, again, preface it by saying, typically with clients that we talk to in the industry, why we feel their existing solutions not working, and here are the reasons. So you back it up, and source it. So you can see how much work it takes to actually write this presentation, to actually put it together strategically. And when I used to have clients that would send their sales teams to me, and then I would give them this work to go and figure out all the problems, all the solutions, all the competitors, they would hate me. And most of the time, you know what, they wouldn't implement it. They wouldn't do it, and they wouldn't get anything. But the ones that actually do implement it and they do value it, it's because I have been presented to death. I know if out of the hundreds, maybe thousands of presentations that were pitching to me, if people had done this, if people had just done these things, maybe just a 10th of these things, I would have given them more credence and time of day, and maybe even my business. But most of the time they were only talking about themselves and what they'd done for giant companies that had no relevance to me, my industry, my size, my budget, nothing. Okay, so don't forget to put why the current solution isn't working. Number 4 is people remember stories. So remember, purchasing decisions, even in corporations, even for large purchases, are done emotionally. There has to be some emotion involved. And in terms of a B2B, the emotion there is all around the ease of the solution and the pain of the problem. So that's where you're engaging them. But the emotion also comes in when you're telling the story. And when you tell the story, so think about 3 or 4 ways that you're going to be helping the problem of the company. And you tell 3 or 4 stories of different ways that you helped, or 3 or 4 different steps, or 3 and 4 sub-problems that emerge from those other problems that you helped solve. So I want you to use the stories to illustrate your expertise, to illustrate your thought leadership, to illustrate your solution. And then when you're telling them the result, that's when you convince them these are the results that can happen for you. And in order to engage emotion, you can actually add in not just like metrics of actual, how much money was saved and what actually got done, but you can also add anecdotal, like the awards that they received as a result, or that the client, satisfaction went up, even anecdotally. So tell stories, or that, one person got promoted, or that they all received commendation letters. Whatever it is, add a little anecdotal, emotion, soft story along with the hard facts, okay? So that's when you're talking about, when you're framing the story around the problem and how around your solution around the problem, okay? So I'm gonna take another sip. Don't be shy to drink your own, okay? All right, so the next point is that the HubSpot research says that if you're doing a sales presentation, do not talk more than 9 minutes at a time without engaging the audience or shifting to another speaker. And the reason for that is because it takes 9 minutes before the audience engagement drops. So that's what they're saying. They're using that 9-minute mark for you to be able to engage them. There's nothing worse than a presentation that is a monologue. That's just death. And I've just recently experienced it with my new wealth advisor. He had maybe 200 slides for an hour-long time that we had together, and it was death by presentation, and it didn't address any of the issues that I wanted. And I was so angry. I was hangry, but I was also angry. And even though I love him, and he's super, super, super good at his job, but he just didn't know how to present to me for that problem. And so it was just wasted time. We had to schedule another call. But in a regular buying setting, you may not have that pleasure. You may not have that opportunity to schedule for the second time. Okay, so the 9-minute talk at one time, interspersed with 2-way questions. The next point is send your deck over before the presentation, which is never done. And I didn't know about this, but I really like this idea. And what you say is, as soon as you start the presentation, you say, based on the info in the presentation deck that I sent, where would you like to begin? Now, if they haven't read it, they'll probably say, let's just start at the beginning. And that's fine. You may not be able to use the leverage, but in case that they're a really engaged buyer and they did go through with it, they will ask you to jump directly into a specific portion that most engaged them, interested them, or was relevant to them. So it just gives you that extra opportunity to save some time on cutting to the chase of a really engaged buyer of what they want. I love this. I think it's brilliant. I really don't know whether anyone would go through it. It really depends on, how succinct your slides are, how story-based, visual-based, attractive, and concise they are, how well built it is. Okay. So then the last tip that I'm going to give you is, you remember when I told you to tell 3-4 stories, and that will be the bulk of the presentation, and the stories have to be around 3 or 4 ways that you've helped this problem, or 3 or 4 different sub-problems that you've helped that this company could have. So I want you to bake in customer objections and your differentiators into the stories. So for example, if I were selling my consulting services, and I were to tell a story about my client, the IT client who came to me, and because they were losing revenue and they needed quickly to pivot to find new channels of income, what we did is we created a super niche for them, and they sold $805,000 within the next couple of months into their new super niche. So if I were telling that story as one of the stories in my presentation, I would bake in something like, and the IT company CEO said, we just don't have that kind of budget. And then I asked him, well, what is the engagement for one average client per year? And he said, it's $1 million. Then I said, well, $30,000 compared to $1 million does not sound like it doesn't sound logical that you wouldn't invest $30,000 to get $1 million. What is your thought process around hiring consultants? So I overcame that objection, and I'm telling the story of how I overcame the objection while I'm overcoming their potential objection in the room. So that's what I mean by bake in the objection into the story. Now, I also want you to bake in your differentiators. If you have any differentiators, then you could make the 3 or 4 stories about how you helped overcome that problem using that differentiator. And if you have several differentiators, then use each different one in each different story that you tell, the 3 or 4. So those are my tips for how to crush a sales presentation, because yes, it is my job to first get you in the door and to get you to, open the door. And then once you're in the door, then it's your, stakes are high, lots of meetings. It never progressed to second meeting. So I want you not to, lose that opportunity. I want you to wow them on the first shot by doing the real homework and getting in there and doing it like a pro, like you're supposed to. Like I wish people had done for 18 years while I was listening to them on and on and on. So you guys, I hope that was helpful, and leave me comments as usual, and my team's going to be in touch with you to invite you over to the new group. And in the meantime, Crystal's going to put a link to how to register for the new masterclass on how to reposition and polish your elevator pitch, which is, of course, as you know, the basis for your entire business repositioning. So thanks again, and have a good rest of the week, everyone. Bye.